Hello, wonderful people like you. Great to have you with me. It's a time of madness, utter madness, and betrayal, and heartbreak. I personally find it very reassuring in amongst all of that to know that people like you, critical thinkers, are with me, sharing the thought. Just before we launch into the monologue, I have to take the time to declare how this channel might best be supported for those with the will and the means to do so. Go to patreon.com, search for me by name, and part with some cash to sign up. It's about a cup of coffee equivalent once a month, and for that you get early access to all content and exclusive access to some, including a question and answer session, which is like a chat. It's like a round table with the family. Nothing's off the table. Ask what you like. Okay, it's time for a monologue. I get input constantly, and I get messages and letters and phone calls and emails and whatever. I'm kept fairly up to date with the way other people's minds are working, which is always gratefully received. And I heard from two friends this week, two entirely unconnected conversations, one after the other. They just happened to be in the same week. The first of them, chronologically, was, well, believe it or not, it was about the nature of time. My friend wrote, quote, "Telescopes, especially those in space, are now so powerful that they can see the moments after the formation of the universe. I postulate that by the same process, if one could travel quickly to some other world far away and you were armed with just such a powerful instrument, you could also observe the crucifixion of our Lord Jesus. It's at least possible to argue that everything is happening all at once, somewhere, everywhere, now." That was his opener, out of the blue, out of a clear blue sky, so to speak. Certainly enough to get a person thinking, certainly a person like me. And when I replied, after a few moments' thought, I quoted the eponymous hero of the movie The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension, of which I am fond. Or maybe it was Albert Einstein. I can't remember. The line is, "Time only exists so that everything doesn't happen at once." Make of that what you will. More importantly, as the conversation developed, I also said I was grateful for such a diverting thought. I know only too well that I've spent too long locked into what we call current events, the affairs of today. Some have said I'm obsessed, and that's to put it mildly. That would be amongst the more polite descriptions of my activities. But so many of us have been drawn, in large part kicking and screaming, into a world of confected and choreographed anxiety, and then spent months and then years in search of solutions or even just a way out, running like rats in a maze. Over the past few years, I've also heard from many who've been aware and in search of solutions for decades, while simultaneously howling into the wind in a vain attempt to attract attention to what they know. And I can only sympathise with those people now. It has been a humbling journey of discovery for me, including self-discovery. So I said to my friend that more than anything else, it was reassuring to hear from someone else who's taking time to contemplate the bigger picture. Because I do this too, more and more. And sometimes I think it's only me. It's like extended daydreams in search of salvation. Instead of wondering what the hell the White House is up to, or what our own Parliament is up to, I clear my head by contemplating the eternal verities. Instead, I ask myself, why? Why anything? Why are we here? Things like that. It's not that I've stopped caring about what's going on right now. It's that I've accepted there's no easy fix for the predicament in which we find ourselves, for the predicament into which we've been herded, more to the point. If it's to be fixed at all, I think the solution will start with more and more of us accepting the need to abandon systems corrupted long ago, completely abandon them. But of course, I've said all that 1,000 times. I get bored hearing myself say it now. The scale of it all gives me a sensation like vertigo, or maybe it's like waking from a fantastically realistic dream and it taking a while to accept it was just that, just a dream. That's what my old reality feels like. It's fading away to the extent that in that way, as with dreams, I can't remember it anymore. I just remember it was there. I remember I had a dream. So in a bid to swim free from what would otherwise be non-stop anxiety and frustration, I let my mind drift from the micro to the macro. Because I'm doing that, I told my friend, it was pleasing to see that his mind was doing likewise. It's good to know you're not alone. This friend of mine has been in the thick of the strife. I mean, absolutely. I'm not going to say who it is. Sacrificing career and much else along the way. And he's among, you won't be able to guess who it is, I don't think. I mean, it's amongst many people like that. You just, who spoke up and were vilified. But he too has realised the depth of it. And as it turns out, he takes the same time out that I do, also to protect his sanity. Part of keeping going is remembering to lift our heads up and look towards the horizon, at least. Because too much time looking down is bad for the soul. Love and peace to you, he said, as a sign-off. Almost every day now, I give and receive messages like this. Now, my life didn't used to be like that. Full of messages of peace and love. Often from complete strangers as well. I used to share this sort of sentiment only with close family. But now my circle has expanded until it's all around the world. This is amazing to me as well. And in the last few years, I have had more conversations about love and peace and light and dark and good and evil and right and wrong than in the previous 5 decades. It has been a revelation, part of a bigger revelation, I suppose. And then I heard from the second friend. She had lost her dearly beloved wolfhound. She had only just been commiserating with me and mine about our loss of our big old girl after 9 years that sped by like time does. On account of the first conversation with the first friend, I thought about how from far enough away and with a big enough telescope we could look back and see her as the pup she was, newly arrived in our lives. Because that moment is still somewhere, everywhere, now. I remember when my friend got her wolfhound, I was sort of vaguely involved, actually. And over the years, I saw countless photos of her, little clips of her running over heathery hills as she went from pup to full grown. She was what a tabloid newspaper would have called a leggy blonde. In wolfhound terms, she was described as having a wheaten coat, more like spun gold, I would say. And this time it was my turn to commiserate. I said I felt only too sharply what she was feeling. It hurt to think about it. We swapped stories about loss, about wolfhounds. We'd long ago learned, each in our own way, that wolfhounds are not even dogs. Not in the way most people mean by the word dog. That there's something else. Our mutual breeder friend says wolfhounds are what all other dogs come from. I said our canine companions were the product of the first domestication we know about, 30-odd thousand years ago. The first coming together in a symbiotic relationship of humans and another species entirely. I said that by now I honestly don't know which domesticated which. What I do know is that I learned more from our wolfhound than I could ever put into words, and that an education like that is one that matters more than most. Because it's not made of words. My friend told me about how another canine companion in her life, this one belonging to her partner, had stayed stubbornly at the wolfhound's side for the duration of her last days, refusing to be parted up to and including the final moments. Someone else said that we don't deserve these creatures, and it's true. She sent a photo of the two together near the end, and at the sight of it, all the memories of our Grace's last sigh came rushing back. I was glad of it, though, grateful for the reality of the feelings. My point in relating these two unconnected contacts is that I've learned how important it is to pay attention to the fundamentals, which do not change, in part because they're true, and the truth is constant. Now that might sound trite. It sounds trite even to me, as I hear myself say it, but speaking for myself, I've learned that in the face of the psyop, in the face of all the massive effort to keep us distracted and on edge, struggling to cope, that I need these reminders of what ought to be obvious. So much that's happening now is an increasingly unconvincing optical illusion, a pile of nonsense. Underneath the illusion and the nonsense are people's lives, of course, billions of lives. What the illusion no longer conceals, makes blatantly obvious, in fact, is that real people's lives are of no consequence to those conjuring the illusion and bent, well, only on control. The transparency of their failure is a symptom of their dissolving. They're melting before our eyes like the Wicked Witch in The Wizard of Oz, splashed with water. And because I've realised that I spent so long utterly fooled by the illusion, and that more recently I've been utterly preoccupied with watching the illusion precisely because I know it's an illusion, watching the way the illusion is put together, how it works, and wondering how on earth I was so fooled for so long by something so two-dimensional. Because of that realisation, I now try and occupy more of my time with the bigger picture made of time, and how much it matters to love and be loved. I'm sure this sounds sentimental. I don't care. Maybe it sounds self-indulgent. I don't care about that either. But people say to me all the time, okay, we understand the problem, but what's the solution? Or they say, what are you going to do about it? My answer is that a huge part of the solution lies in seeing that while the illusion has sacrificed millions of lives and is intent on sacrificing millions more, it's still an illusion that has inflicted and continues to inflict all the harm. Under the illusion, where they've always been, are the things that matter. Even though I know it's an illusion, I still catch myself being swept along by it, almost swept away. I think part of the intention is just that, to sweep everyone off their feet and away. I need real things to hold on to that keep me in place, that enable me to stand upright. And so I make time for questions that matter more to me, about what it's all about, why we're here, the nature of time, the mistake of ever taking love for granted. All of that. And also about wolfhounds.